The most common mistakes that new tie-dyers make and how to avoid them. Be still and find your center before you start working with dye. For best results, work with a sober head and peaceful heart. Give yourself plenty of time in your schedule for your dye projects if you want to have the best chance of getting consistent quality results. It is important to wash fabric before dyeing for many reasons. Pre-washing removes coatings that affect absorbency. Pre-washing removes oils and solvents that can leave unsightly marks. Pre-washing can show you how much a garment shrinks before you buy 50 of them. It can be disappointing to start with a brand of dye that is not a good quality. It is vital that you find a quality dye for a quality result. It is vital that your dye is the correct one for the fabric that you have. If the chemical is not a match for your fiber, it can all wash out at the end of the process. It is very important that you have the right type of dye for the specific fiber source that you want to dye. Many new tie-dyers are disappointed when they learn the polyester stitching on white cotton t-shirts stays white during dyeing. Many new dyers make mistakes that can be avoided if they read the instructions on the packaging on the dye they are using. Have you read the instructions on the brand of dye that you buy? Another common mistake new dyers make is to trust the merchandiser in the store where you buy your fabrics. Sometimes the merchandiser is focused on making money and will tell you whatever you want to hear to make the sale. Sometimes the merchandiser does not know any better. Merchandisers in stores do not accept returns if they have been dyed. Always test a sample to reality check. Another mistake new dyers make is to trust the label. Although labels are a legal requirement and as such should be accurate, a lot can happen in a busy factory where a garment passes through many hands. If you need to be sure, do a reality check and make a sample. Trying to dye fabric that is too wet results in large white areas because the dye cannot penetrate into spaces that are already filled with water. Fabric that is slightly damp works best for drawing the moisture into the layers of the cloth. If you use metal tools like vice grips and hemostats to manipulate your fabric, you need to file off the sharp edges before using them on delicate fabrics like rayon or silk. New tie-dyers often make holes in new fabrics with the sharp edges of metal tools. You can coat the tips of your tools with epoxy glue so they are gentler on your delicate fabrics. You can make holes in delicate fabrics like silk and rayon if you pull too tightly on your sinew and elastic bands. New dyers often complain they did not achieve enough color saturation. This can be caused by fabric that is too wet or too dry, bindings that are too tight, and/or not enough dye applied to the project. If you tie the fabric up too tightly, you might end up with more white on the piece than you want. If you do not apply enough dye, you will end up with large white areas. It will likely take more dye than your instincts tell you at first to achieve full color saturation. If you want your color to be very even and without speckles, you need to strain the dye mixture through muslin before you pour it over the fabric. Not knowing how or why to use soda ash correctly can result in colors that wash out and fade. Do not place soda ash mixtures in metal containers. They are very corrosive and can quickly make holes in the bottom of your pots and pans. Do not place garments that have been soaked in soda ash into your tumble dryer. Soda ash is volatile and the powder can set on fire. Some colors will overlap and create brown. New tie-dyers often use the wrong colors together. If you try to use too many colors, it is easy to end up with brown. Be mindful of how you apply these colors to avoid overlap if you do not want brown on the finished piece. If you are making garments to sell, it is easy to accidentally make a combination of colors that is not popular. Focus on the colors that sell the best if it is important to you that you make money. Many new dyers do not consider pattern placement carefully enough. Be mindful of color and pattern placement on boobs, crotches, and armpits. Pants with red dye on the crotch area do not sell, and are a little embarrassing to walk down the street in. Colors turn out paler than planned when fabric source is not ideal or dye is not used correctly. Try to wait at least 24 hours before you wash your projects if you want the most colorful and lasting results. If you are in a hurry, there is a good chance it will affect your results in a negative way. If you wash the fabric too soon after you have applied the dye, the colors will likely bleed and fade. If you do not wash the fabric well enough after dyeing, it can result in color bleed in future washes. If you try to wash too many pieces at once, the water can become so full of dye that it can stain your projects instead of washing them clean. New tie-dyers will often make garments that bleed in the wash because they are impatient with the washing process. It is important to keep washing until the water runs clear. If you are impatient at any point in the process, it will affect the quality of your results. If you leave garments that have not been fully washed lying in a damp pile, color can transfer from one to another. Do not try to use vinegar to neutralize bleach when you make reverse tie-dye. A mixture of vinegar and bleach produces a poisonous gas that can make you really sick if inhaled. While bleaching dark-colored 100% cotton shirts can give you spectacular results, if your garment is a polyester cotton blend, bleach will give you disastrous results. Take the necessary measures to protect your health. Your personal safety is your responsibility. If you forget to wear your gloves, you will likely end up with blue hands. Wear 2 pairs of gloves over each other, so when the outside one gets a hole in, your fingers are still protected inside. Wear a mask with a proper filter over your mouth and face when working with dye powders and chemicals. Exposure to the chemicals can result in allergies like skin rashes and breathing challenges. Many new dyers resist wearing the face mask until it affects their breathing, and then they want to sue the supplier. Another common mistake new dyers make is to sell their products too cheaply. Tie-dye takes time and energy to make. Are you sure you are charging enough for yours? New dyers need to learn to accept that sometimes it is just not a good day to dye. Some days you will be in your flow, and other days you will make a bunch of flops. It is futile and expensive to try to force it on days when you are not in your flow. Some dyers think they know everything. There is always something new to learn. Many new tie-dyers make mistakes because they are impatient. If you try to take shortcuts, you will be sorry. It will affect your quality. Most new tie-dyers are overcritical of their results. Ask other people what they think to get other perspectives. Take a photo of your project and look at it on your device. This can also give you a different perspective. Many new dyers get into trouble when they offer to make custom orders for customers. While it is easy to achieve random results, it is much trickier to replicate results. Especially when you are working towards a deadline. It is much easier and more cost-effective to ask people to buy items you have already made than to offer to make something specific for them. Not to mention way less nerve-wracking. New dyers are often very hard on themselves. Remember, everyone gets better with practice. What the experts say. Cultivate patience. Expect to always make mistakes. Your best teacher is your last mistake. The general population are way less discerning about tie-dye than you are. You have to make all the mistakes to learn. There are no mistakes in tie-dye. Did you enjoy this video? Please share it with your friends. I would appreciate it so much. If you would like to reduce the number of mistakes that you make, sign up for my online course at this link. http://melanie-brummers-academy.thinkific.com/courses/tie the basics of tie-dye with reactive dyes. Start with the right information and get great results right from the start.